captivated by that feeling of anticipation. Here's another great example where Jimmy Fallon asks The Rock a question that he could easily just say yes or no to. Instead, he playfully delays it and builds anticipation.
Maybe just wink at me. Is there a possibility of a cameo of either David Hasselhoff or Pamela Anderson?
Okay, let's see. If I kick my right leg, that means there's a possibility of a cameo of one. If I kick my left leg, that means both of them are in the movie. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be a big production like that. Here's a great example of The Rock using a quick sentence to introduce a story.
Here's a little info that I'll share with you guys that I've never shared with anyone, so...
Here's something I've personally never told anybody. How's that for 7 words that gets your ears to perk up? Before The Rock tells a story or answers a question, he makes you want it. He gives you an intro that makes you lean in. Compare that to these 2 clips from his early years, where Dwayne doesn't give his stories an intro to add anticipation.
The people's elbow? What is the people's elbow? Well, the people's elbow is just dropping an elbow.
How did you come up with this character of The Rock in the first place?
Well, it was kind of a collective group effort to come up with... It was originally Rocky Maivia, and we just kind of shortened it to The Rock. So, really, that was really about it.
Picturing it today, you can almost imagine him starting out with something like, "Oh wow, that is a great story," and then going into his
goodbye, Bowman, Trunks, and even you, Takarot.
His answer, it isn't terrible by any means, but compare that to what he does more recently when he's discussing his first ever wrestling match, and notice which one grips you more.
And 22,000 people did something in this moment that defined my career and literally changed my life.
How do you not get captivated by someone telling you this is the one moment that literally changed their life? Also worth noting, many of us will tell a story and then at the end say, "Oh, it was awesome," or "Oh, it changed my life." The Rock puts those at the beginning of his stories, and it really makes you stop and listen. If you start your stories or start answering questions by saying a simple introductory sentence like, "Oh, you're going to love this," before getting into it, you'll build anticipation and hook people. Another thing The Rock does exceptionally well today is go beyond face value of a question and answer what they're really asking. Here's an example from when The Rock was on SportsCenter in 2014.
Let me get this straight. Are you an actor who wrestles now, or are you a wrestler who acts? What's your day job? What do you list in your tax form?
What? The tax form. Well, I'm an actor, and I've been an actor for such a long time.
He could easily end his answer there, but that's not really what the interviewer wants, to just literally know what Dwayne considers himself. He wants to hear something interesting, so The Rock goes on.
Now, in 2004, I quietly retired from professional wrestling and from the WWE. I had my last match in Madison Square Garden in 2004, where I had my first match when I came into the WWE.
And he goes on from there. It's so much more interesting than if he had just said, "Oh, I'm an actor now. I consider myself an actor." This may seem obvious, but most of us screw this up all the time. We answer questions with short, factual answers instead of telling stories or showing cool things about ourselves. For example, think of the last time you met someone new. They probably asked, "Where are you from?" Most people don't really care if the answer is Pennsylvania or Ohio or Italy. What they want is to learn something about you. So if you just say the city you were born in, you aren't really giving them much to like about you. Here's another example from the same interview, and pay attention to how The Rock answers this question.
And you got badly hurt in one of those, correct? Well, tell us a little bit about what happened there in 29.
I did. In WrestleMania 29, it was the biggest WrestleMania of all time.
Yep.
That's what we wanted to do. It was something that John and I, and Vince McMahon too, by the way, we dreamed about something like this.
Instead of just saying, "Yeah, I tore my rectus off my pelvis, it really hurt," he launches into an epic 2-minute story about the show, the hype, what ultimately went wrong, and in the end, it's a celebration.
Real, authentic moonshine in a jar. In a jar, by the way, in a jar.
Screw off the top.
We literally screwed off the top. He said, "You like to cheers?" I said, "Damn right I would." Come on. So we all shared a little drink, and that was my injury.
Now, I'm not saying that every question needs a 2-minute story. Definitely don't use and abuse this every time someone in a group asks you something. Unless you're an amazing storyteller, you'll quickly find you aren't getting asked any questions. But if you ever find yourself in boring conversations that feel like forced, awkward interviews, or you find yourself running out of things to say, give yourself the freedom to go beyond just the shortest possible answer to a question. It will help you make a really interesting and truly memorable first impression. Now, for comparison, watch this clip from back in 2002, and notice he answers the questions fairly literally, doesn't really smile, and doesn't add a preamble or tell a story. To me, it just isn't as fun to listen to, and it doesn't leave you walking away with much of a lasting impression. Compare that to this next clip, and watch how The Rock answers the literal question, and then notice how he transitions away from it and into a more interesting answer.
Who's your favorite athlete of all time? That's the next question.
My favorite athlete of all time is Muhammad Ali.
The only person you follow on Twitter.
I'll tell you why.
It really is that simple. Where many other people would just say, Muhammad Ali, he was the best. The Rock says, Muhammad Ali, and I'll tell you why. That's a great sentence that you can use. And then he goes into a great story for another minute and a half. Now, how does he make those stories interesting? Let's talk about that, because it might be the most crucial piece of The Rock's charisma. The Rock is amazing at captivating people by creating strong emotions in them when he speaks. Listen, humans are emotional creatures. We're emotional decision makers. That's why the potential partner who looks great on paper almost always gets passed over for the potential partner who makes you feel a certain way about yourself or about them. The Rock does two things extremely well to help create strong responses from other people. One, he feels the emotion strongly himself, and two, he expresses it at a 10 out of 10. And there are three tools that he uses for that second bit: his speaking volume, his hands and body, and his facial expressions. Watch this clip and pay attention to how expressive he is with his voice, his body, and his face.
Mr. Wonderful, he takes the thing off and he throws it to the crowd, and I was like, and I caught it. And it was a big, like, nerd out moment.
Really?
Right? We cried nerd tears.
Yeah, we did.
Right? I was like, oh, and I caught it. It was amazing.
Now watch this clip from 2000 and notice the difference in how he uses his facial expressions, body, and voice.
Now, what's next for you? I understand you've got a budding acting career.
I'd like to do that. Very interested in doing that. Serious acting. We have The Voyager coming up. I did that.
Star Trek Voyager.
Star Trek Voyager, yeah.
It's night and day. Even his laugh has transformed. Check it out.
Or like Pop-Tarts.
Now, I don't know Dwayne Johnson personally, so maybe he was always like this behind the scenes, and it was just a matter of getting comfortable being himself in front of the cameras. But even so, I think his transformation is incredible. And honestly, that would be relatable too. How many times have you been in one situation, felt like you were super funny or fun or likable, only to get in front of a different crowd or put in a different environment, and suddenly your charisma is just gone? I know I have. So it's really, really cool to see Dwayne's change over time. Let's quickly look at each part of the formula, starting with feeling the emotion strongly yourself.
What's the one thing that you love most about our relationship? And, she said, well, that I trust you.
Okay, two things. One, great delivery. His voice is modulating, great eye contact, he's pausing. But it's more than that. He lets his own story really move him. He feels the emotions of the story as he tells it, and it makes him so gripping to watch. Here he is talking about battling with depression. Notice his delivery and his pregnant pauses, but more than that, watch how when he pauses, he allows himself to get impacted by the memory.
And you're in your bubble, and I wish I had someone at that time who could just pull me aside and, hey, it's gonna be okay.
He's sharing a vulnerable story, and he lets it show. Did you notice how his facial expressions, body, and voice change in this clip compared to when he's talking about something that's fun or funny? So if you're telling a funny story, smile and laugh. If you're telling an emotional story, it's okay to be moved. Let the people listening to you feel what you feel. A great way to do this is actually relive the story in your mind as you tell it. That's step one. Step two is to be expressive with your hands, face, and voice to get that feeling across to whoever is listening. Here's a great example of how The Rock uses his hands and his body movements to make a story more interesting. Notice how by using his hands so well, he keeps your eyes glued to him.
Event or anything like that, if you have all this adrenaline, you can actually let it go if you're fighting or if you're playing football or whatever. But in this case, I had no place for it to go, so it's like, I am Hercules, and then I would black out.
And then he flashes that huge smile at the end to express that he thinks it's funny. Later in the interview, Conan is teasing him by saying he didn't black out, he fainted. Watch The Rock's reaction, and notice how real he is. and how he fully expresses himself without being reserved like his older interviews.
Again, I am. Here we go. Oh boy.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, we have a clip here. A clip from the movie.
The clip.
And the audience absolutely loves it. The Rock has gone from being reserved in his interviews to really 100% feeling whatever his emotions are and expressing them at a 10 out of 10. You don't need to be super effusive and over the top all the time. It's just about finding a way to present yourself that you like. If it feels overwhelming to try to remember to build anticipation, answer questions differently, use your hands, be louder, use your face, don't worry about it. I'm going to link to a video at the end of this where Charlie talks about the fastest way to master a skill and make it natural or unthinking. That way you won't have to keep all of this in mind when you're out and about interacting with people. Now, while these are areas that The Rock appears to have made massive improvements on over the years, there are two things he's done from the beginning that I think are awesome habits. The first one will absolutely make your life better and improve your relationships. The Rock spreads the love. As Dale Carnegie and Charles Schwab would say, he is lavish in his praise. This can be as simple as laughing along and repeating the punchline of a joke, letting that person know you think they're funny.
In college, I also duck lips, but that was a not as cool.
Duck lips.
Or it can be reaffirming someone or bringing them up when they play themselves down.
I mean, I even get that a little bit here. It's not 25,000 people, but no, it's the same. But
Absolutely. You know, and you're right, and it's something very unique and special, and you can speak to it because you do speak to a live audience.
Or it can be pausing mid-sentence to give a compliment and a friendly touch.
How do they make that look like you actually fell down, hit the landing, and then you continue in the same shot?
So, cool question. So, we had a camera rig on. I love your questions, by the way.
Thanks, man.
This is why you love movies, man.
Yeah, I love this. You know I love this stuff, man. It's my favorite stuff to ask.
I love it.
Listen to that interviewer as he's leaving just a few minutes later.
Really good to see you, man. Thank
Good
you so much
seeing
for
you too, man.
reminding me, man.
Oh, of course.
Really.
It isn't rocket science. You're making that person feel good, and people like feeling good. So they like you for creating those feelings in them. This can go horribly wrong if you do it like a suck-up, but I'll include a video at the end of this that touches on how to avoid that mistake. And yes, this is super impactful to people because he is such a major celebrity, but it's also something that will be appreciated by friends and loved ones regardless of who you are. This next story about The Rock's first WWF match was what really highlighted this for me, and it's what convinced me to make this part of the video.
Landed on him. I started pinning him. The referee was counting 1, 2. You'll see my head down, and I was actually speaking to him, and as I am pinning him, I am saying to him, "Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate that." And I heard him say, "I got you, brother."
The Rock thanks the guy for letting him win. Of course he was going to let you win. That's his job. The Rock is still so appreciative. And how do you think that impacts the other guy? Dwayne comes in, and because of his looks and his family's history wrestling, he gets to beat him in his first match. That guy could hate Dwayne, think he's entitled, hasn't earned it, whatever. But then Dwayne thanks him mid-match. It's a lot harder not to like him now. The last point I want to make about The Rock is that he's super inspiring because he walks the walk. He does what he says he's going to do. His story is amazing. He was completely broke, dedicated his entire life to football, was good enough to go pro, and then had an injury that shattered that dream. That would break most people. Instead, he becomes a megastar. He also works really, really hard, and I'm not going to lie, when you watch how hard he pushes himself in the gym, or hear him talk about waking up at 4 a.m. every day, or watch his motivational videos, it's hard not to be inspired to push yourself and work hard. And if you want that video on how to make all of this an unthinking habit, you can watch that here. If you want the video on how do you give a compliment without...
Meet Mac. As a long-term trader, Mac found himself making some costly mistakes that he didn't want to repeat. So he attended Online Trading Academy's free class and started to discover OTA's core strategy that he could learn to help him make better buy and sell decisions. Mac then carved out a path to trade with confidence. And so can you. There's a free intro class near you. This is your chance to start knowing now. Don't wait. Reserve your seats for the free class right now.
I first knew I wanted to be a pilot at a very young age. At 8 years old, I took a airplane ride.
You're going to spend thousands and thousands of hours learning over the course of your life. And what's crazy is that despite all that time in the classroom, learning languages, music, whatever it might be, You might be learning in one of the slowest ways possible. Not because your teachers didn't have good intentions, but because they did not know how to teach you to optimize that learning experience. The good news is this. There are ways, principles that you can apply to everything from martial arts to business that are going to help you lap the competition. You can learn much faster than you are. So right now, think of something in your life, one thing that you are trying to progress in. Apply these 5 tips and watch as you just go crazy, crazy fast through the learning curve. First thing is this. Measure a smaller unit success. And to illustrate this point, think of 2 salesmen making outbound sales calls. First salesman, he wants to measure whether he's successful in that call, he makes the sale, or whether he isn't, he doesn't make the sale. Good thing to measure. Second salesman says, yes, I want to know those things, but I'm going to go smaller. I want to know first milestone, is the person staying on the phone with me for 10 seconds? Second milestone, did I finish my entire 30-second pitch? After that, did they ask me a buying question within the first 2 minutes? And so on all the way through to close. Goes without saying, this guy over here who has smaller milestones is going to do better because he can diagnose where he's going wrong. This guy only knows things are generally going good or they're not. He has got no data, no analytics. This guy, on the other hand, can say, my first 10 seconds are great, my first 30 seconds are great, but I'm missing something after that that isn't going the way I need it to. And this one became very clear to me. I've been practicing jiu-jitsu lately, and in class there's a lot of these complex submissions, and I saw myself feeling like, okay, if I'm doing well, that means I get the submission. If I'm not doing well, I'm not getting the submission. But I spent a lot of time not getting the submission. What has gone better for me is rather than say, you know what, forget the submission, I need a smaller step, which is going to be, can I break this guy's posture, right? Can I grab his wrist, pull it off my chest, and pull him to me? Yes, or no, crap, I'm not doing that thing right. Okay, what am I doing wrong? Fix the wrist, fix it. Okay, I've got that piece. Next step. When you deconstruct things in this way, that's what Tim Ferriss calls it, you can chunk all these little lessons together. And that makes the learning process at the end. You just reassemble these pieces and you will fly through the learning curve. So that's the first tip. Second tip is this. When you're thinking of this thing, pick only one thing at a time. And I see this all the time, right? People ask me about the channel. They come in and they say, Charlie, I've watched all of your videos. I've seen them twice, seen a ton of improvement, but I'm kind of hitting a plateau. What do I do? And I never tell them, go ahead, watch a third time all 60 videos. That's not the right thing to do. The right thing is to pick the one video that had the tip that could be best for you, because you know your own self, right? Pick the thing that's going to be best for you, and apply that until it becomes an unthinking habit. When we teach our programs, we've done a ton of different ways. We've done weekend boot camps, we've done group classes, we've done one-on-one Skype coaching. By far, the fastest improvement that I've seen in my clients comes from the online program that we have that walks people very specifically through things. Okay, week number 1, first impression. Week number 2, we've got the first impression, we're going to move to confidence. Week number 3, conversation. Going chronologically. And then within that first week, it's eye contact, tonality. Each day has just one thing that they're going to focus on. And what this enables you to do, or someone to do in any area, is that you get to focus on that thing without having your mind just be flooded with, I got to do this, and then this, and I got to remember how to finish the submission. You get to focus on one thing, make that a habit, and then move along. So that's the second tip. Third tip. People get this one wrong, I think, from college, and it's that if you have a set amount of time to dedicate to any sort of learning endeavor, you are much better off spending that time a little bit every day than you are in one batched process. There's some things in life that do better in batching. Learning is not one of them, because learning comes from repetition, right? I see people in college, they go, but wait a second, I crammed for my last test, I did fine, 8 hours straight, I studied. Yes, but how much did you remember 3 days later? If you're trying to build a skill, you're trying to rewire your brain, create new neural pathways. Say you're playing the piano. If you sit down for 3 hours and play, and then come back a week later, you're not going to have it. But if you sit down for a half hour a day, walk away, come back the next day, half hour, you're getting to review what you did in a much shorter time span. That's going to help you learn faster. So keep in mind, when you have something, this consistency every single day, with the exception of things that require rest, like weight training, you want to keep that up. Now, a couple of caveats here. First thing is, this takes much more willpower. It's a lot easier for people to go, I'm going to run really hard for one day than it is to do it for a year a little bit every day. So if you're working on willpower, you haven't mastered that, check out our video on willpower. It's going to help you with that. And the second thing is that this is true of learning and practicing, though not necessarily of production. I'm a writer, and if you're learning to write, I recommend you read and write every day. But if you're writing your masterpiece, some people, myself included, do better to have these just complete flow experiences of 6 hours at a time. You write, walk away for a week, and then come back to it. So learning and production, not necessarily the same mechanics going on here. But this brings me to the fourth thing, which is my favorite of everything that I've mentioned so far, because it's impacted me most recently in the biggest way, and that's with Charisma on Command. When we started this, I was doing it wrong. This business is actually about 3 years old. I had a blog, which I still do, and I was writing articles in that all the time. And I'd write an article, get a couple of subscribers, write an article, a couple of subscribers, but the growth rate was very, very linear. It wasn't going very quickly. And about 6-7 months ago, I was talking to Ben, my co-founder, and we said we need to mix stuff up. We got to try something different because we can't do this tortoise thing forever. So we said, okay, we're going to do LinkedIn, we're going to do Facebook, we're going to do Pinterest, we're going to get an Instagram, which I don't even know how we would possibly do that for Charisma on Command, and we're going to do YouTube. And if you'd asked me then which one was going to take it off, I thought LinkedIn. But surprise, surprise, YouTube exploded, right? We went from 8,000 subscribers to about 300,000 today in just 6-7 months. The point is, you do not know which vehicle is going to take you there. Everyone tells you, get a mentor, get a method, get a teacher. True. But when you're first starting, pick a bunch of different mentors. Pick a bunch of different methods. Good news is, introductory class for a lot of people is discounted or free. So when you're starting, say, improv comedy, go to a bunch of different clubs. Find the one that works for you. Once you find the one that is making you grow the fastest, that you like the most, double down on that. And that's what we've done with YouTube. For the last several months, all my energy's gone into YouTube. But then something happens, which always will happen, is you'll start to plateau. Now, our biggest growth month for this channel was probably a month or two ago. And since then, things have kind of leveled off, which tells me that, yes, this is still a worthy investment of my time, but something needs to be tweaked. Something needs to change. Maybe I need a different style of video. Maybe now that the business is at a different spot, I invest in ads that I would hate to bombard you with before every video, but maybe we need ads on the YouTube channel. Maybe we need to find mainstream coverage. Maybe we need to take our book and get a book deal, which, by the way, shameless plug, if you have an agent friend or know someone that does self-improvement nonfiction, please email me, Charlie@CharismaOnCommand, because that's one of the angles that we're looking at to take us to that next exponential growth level. But the point is this: at the beginning of any endeavor, mix it up. Get a bunch of different teachers, a bunch of different methods. When you find one that works, shut all the rest out. Stick with it while that growth is going crazy. And then, when it starts to level off, you go back to that, okay, something new. I'm in a new stage. I need a new teacher. That is going to help you grow extremely quickly. Fifth thing, this is, again, one of the more important ones for me, is debriefing. And I've been thinking a lot about jiu-jitsu lately. That's kind of what inspired this video. But I see things, people have a lot of pride. And when they lose, they want to act like I got it, I knew that I shouldn't have done that. The truth is, I have no idea what I should and shouldn't do. I'm getting out there, I'm getting beat all the time. But whenever I get beat and I don't know what happened, I say, hey man, can you show me what you just did there? He'll walk me through it. Yeah, you did this, that. Okay, how do I avoid that next time? And I'll say, well, you had your arm really far extended. When you're doing that, you want to keep your arms in tight. And I say, okay, great. Next time I do it, I don't make that same mistake. So in this way, I'm limiting the mistakes I make rather than repeating them over and over and over again, which is what most people do. I make them once. Now, you'll notice in this story, I needed that second opinion because I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and this is true of you as well. Quick story to illustrate the point. We had a guy in our program, Charisma University, was doing very well with the program, but one area of his life he was struggling in, and he was trying to get interviews for this scholarship. He had 5 interviews set up to get scholarship programs for tech, and he'd had 4 of them, and he'd missed them all, despite the fact that he was by far the most qualified candidate. I'm talking a kid who has won national awards for technology, his GPA, every single brainiac thing was there. So I talked to him because this kid should have been getting these scholarships. He was by far, on paper, extremely, extremely worthy of it. And it became clear to me in listening to, okay, so how do you talk about it, that he was just listing his achievements. I won this award, I did that, I got this GPA. I said, pause. I think I know what's going on here, is that you're not connecting with these people. So tell me, honestly, what is it you love about technology? Why do you want to do it in your life? And he said, well, I think that there's a ton of problems in the world today, and that they're not necessarily going to be solved by politics. They're going to be solved by groups of smart people who are building new technologies, like green energy, for instance, that makes things work for a bunch of different constituents. And that's what I want to do, is I want to contribute to the community in that way. I said, pause. That's your answer, all right? So when they ask you why this scholarship, do not tell them I won this award. Tell them what your dream is. So we worked on that. He goes back for his final scholarship opportunity. And of course, because they can see his resume and then hear his story, those things together, he blows it away and he gets the scholarship. So for you, you're going to need, when you're screwing up, probably a second pair of eyes on you. And if you don't know who to ask, you don't want to ask the wrong person, check out a video. It's called How to Spot Dangerous Advice. It's going to help you find the right mentor for the situation that you are in. But
looking to earn real cash rewards for sharing your opinion? Join QMe. QMe is...
have you ever met a girl, hit it off, exchanged numbers, texted her to set up plans, and then never seen her again? If you're like me, the answer is yes, and it's probably happened more than once. And that's because there's about a dozen other guys trying to get her attention at the same time, and your texts just don't stand out. Even if you hit it off in person, you are sunk in this day and age if you can't make her like you over text. So I want to give you 5 things that you can do that will separate you from the pack, make her more attracted to you, and get you meeting her in person. First, when you get her number, save yourself in her phone as something fun. Typically, something that reminds her of how you met is best. So, say that you met her while out at a dance club. You can save yourself as Dave Amazing Dancer or even Dave Booty Shaker. It's a little thing, but it makes a big difference every time you contact her because it reminds her of your sense of humor and something that she likes about you. The goal is really just to make her smile when she sees a text from you. Second, after you've added your name into her phone, send yourself a text as her. You do this for a few reasons. One, so that you have her number, but also so that you guys can begin flirting over text right away. Start by sending yourself goofy compliments as her. So you could say, for instance, OMG, dream come true. I'm so happy I finally have your number, you handsome devil. Sometimes she won't even realize that you've done this, which is great, because the next day you can respond with something like, aw, you're so sweet, you didn't have to say that. Now you're starting this continued conversation off on a funny note, and it makes it much easier to continue. Third, once you're talking, do not make it all logistical. Most guys text things like, hey, this is Jack, I had a really great time meeting you, how was the rest of your night? This is a nice thought, but it is so boring because it's just pure logistics. Instead, send things that create emotion, like, how was your night? Pick up any other handsome gentleman at the bar? In both cases, you're asking about her night, but in one, you're being bland, and in the other, you're making her smile with a little bit of cockiness. The one that creates more emotional engagement is the one she's more likely to respond to. So in general, a good rule of thumb in texting is to ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much emotion does this text create? If it's less than a 3, change it or don't send it. Fourth, use callback humor. I've already given a couple examples of this, but it deserves its own point. Callback humor is by far the easiest way to create your own unique and funny texts. You just reference something that made her laugh when you were interacting. So if you met her while you were out dancing, for instance, you could say, FYI, my dance team beat the pants off your dance team last night. Don't beat the same theme to death, though, by referring to it over and over again, because then you're just the guy clinging to the one positive moment that you shared together. Fifth, when it comes time to make plans with her, make it something that she can get excited about. After 2 or 3 rounds of fun text back and forth, you're usually more than ready to set up plans. And whether or not she says yes will have a lot to do with how exciting your invitation is. Doing something on Friday isn't exciting. Even a nice dinner can be boring. Worse, she may feel nervous about spending an hour and a half eating in front of a stranger and say no to your invitation just to avoid the potential awkwardness. But if you invite her to a salsa dancing class, that's a little bit more fun, or a cool mixology bar, or even to go get the world's best ice cream cone, that's also a lot of fun. The point is, if you can keep your invitation low pressure and exciting, you're way more likely to get a yes than if you keep it high pressure and generic. Do all these 5 tips and you'll have moved flawlessly from getting a girl's number to the first date. Of course, you're going to have to meet her before you can get her number, so we've also created a video that talks about 3 ways to start a conversation with a girl in any situation. If you want to check that out, go ahead now, click the button on the screen, and you'll be taken to a page where you can drop your email and get that video now. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Have you ever met a girl, hit it off, exchanged numbers, texted her to set up plans, and then never seen her again? If you're like me, the answer is yes, and it's probably happened more than once. And that's because there's about a dozen other guys trying to get her attention at the same time, and your texts just don't stand out. Even if you hit it off in person, you are sunk in this day and age if you can't make her like you over text. So I want to give you 5 things that you can do that will separate you from the pack, make her more attracted to you, and get you meeting her in person. First, when you get her number, save yourself in her phone as something fun. Typically, something that
reminds her of how you met is best. So, say that you met her while out at a dance club. You can save yourself as Dave Amazing Dancer, or even Dave Booty Shaker. It's a little thing, but it makes a big difference every time you contact her, because it reminds her of your sense of humor and something that she likes about you. The goal is really just to make her smile when she sees a text from you. Second, after you've added your name into her phone, send yourself a text as her. You do this for a few reasons. One, so that you have her number, but also so that you guys can begin flirting over text right away. Start by sending yourself goofy compliments as her. So you can say, for instance, OMG, dream come true. I'm so happy I finally have your number, you handsome devil. Sometimes she won't even realize that you've done this, which is great, because the next day you can respond with something like, "Aw, you're so sweet, you didn't have to say that." Now you're starting this continued conversation off on a funny note, and it makes it much easier to continue. Third, once you're talking, do not make it all logistical. Most guys text things like, "Hey, this is Jack. I had a really great time meeting you. How was the rest of your night?" This is a nice thought, but it is so boring because it's just pure logistics. Instead, send things that create emotion, like, "How was your night? Pick up any other handsome gentleman at the bar?" In both cases, you're asking about her night, but in one, you're being bland, and in the other, you're making her smile with a little bit of cockiness. The one that creates more emotional engagement is the one she's more likely to respond to. So in general, a good rule of thumb in texting is to ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much emotion does this text create? If it's less than a 3, change it or don't send it. Fourth, use callback humor. I've already given a couple examples of this, but it deserves its own point. Callback humor is by far the easiest way to create your own unique and funny texts. You just reference something that made her laugh when you were interacting. So if you met her while you were out dancing, for instance, you could say, "FYI, my dance team beat the pants off your dance team last night." Don't beat the same theme to death, though, by referring to it over and over again, because then you're just the guy clinging to the one positive moment that you shared together. Fifth, when it comes time to make plans with her, make it something that she can get excited about. After 2 or 3 rounds of fun text back and forth, you're usually more than ready to set up plans. And whether or not she says yes will have a lot to do with how exciting your invitation is. Doing something on Friday isn't exciting. Even a nice dinner can be boring. Worse, she may feel nervous about spending an hour and a half eating in front of a stranger and say no to your invitation just to avoid the potential awkwardness. But if you invite her to a salsa dancing class, that's a little bit more fun, or a cool mixology bar, or even to go get the world's best ice cream cone, that's also a lot of fun. The point is, if you can keep your invitation low pressure and exciting, you're way more likely to get a yes than if you keep it high pressure and generic. Do all these 5 tips and you'll have moved flawlessly from getting a girl's number to the first date. Of course, you're going to have to meet her before you can get her number, so we've also created a video that talks about 3 ways to start a conversation with a girl in any situation. If you want to check that out, go ahead now, click the button on the screen, and you'll be taken to a page where you can drop your email and get that video now. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you like this video, and since this is a new animation style, let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Last thing I'd like to do is just give a huge
Meet Mac. As a long-term trader, Mac found himself making some costly mistakes that he didn't want to repeat. So he attended Online Trading Academy's free class and started to discover OTA's core strategy.
There are no classes on flirting in school. And unfortunately what that means is that when you go out into the world to do it, sometimes some weird things can escape your mouth. Which is why in this video I'm going to give you 5 things that you should never say when flirting. You may have in the past because they're very common. No more after this video. So, the first one can occur in a lot of situations. You're looking at someone's Instagram, you see they have an attractive friend, you think they might like them. Or you're talking alone with them, and then all of a sudden, boom, competition shows up. Or you hear that they have this celebrity crush. In any of these scenarios, it's easy to feel threatened. And what we sometimes do when we're threatened is we lash out. Guys will say, "Oh, that guy is too handsome, he looks gay." Sometimes women will use the S word. Whatever it is, we think that what we're doing is disqualifying that person. You can't date them because of this. What we're really doing is disqualifying ourselves because we're showing how insecure we really are. Much better in the scenario where you start to feel insecure, you're not sure they like someone else, is A, you could say nothing,
Or B, you can give a genuine compliment to that other person. This shows, 1, that you're secure in your sexuality, 2, that you think that there's more to you than just your looks, right? You can deal with a bit of competition on that front. And that 3, everyone isn't an enemy in the world to you. That's how secure you are. You don't need to be best, better, perfect in any way. You can dish out compliments and still have value on your own. It makes you much more attractive and confident. The second thing here is a very different angle. This is the scenario where you're looking at someone and you really like them and you have those rose-colored glasses on. Everything they say is perfect. So they're telling you a story, I went to Jamaica with my family. Oh, that's amazing. And then we went to this restaurant. That's amazing. And I had this delicious steak. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That's
when you hear
amazing.
yourself saying that's amazing, that's so cool, that's so awesome repeatedly, stop yourself. Because you are alienating this individual. I certainly encourage enthusiasm. I do it all the time on this channel. But not everything in life is truly amazing. And when people hear that you think everything that they do is, even when it's not, that's going to make them go, okay, this person likes me a little bit too much, it's needy, and I don't want to continue with them. So much better here is to honestly say things are amazing when they truly strike you as amazing, and to not do it when they're not. In those situations where there's something this person really is truly amazing and you don't know what to do other than keep repeating it, some playful sarcasm is very powerful. So they're telling you this honest-to-God awesome story. You can go, hold on, wait a second, let me guess. You also volunteer with orphanages on the weekend and probably practice rocket science for fun in your free time, right? That is a playful way of saying you are really, really cool. It isn't just repeating you're amazing, it makes them laugh and it decreases the tension.
Fuck!
So, the third thing here comes when you're finally...
Wait, hold up. Oh, no, wait, hold up. I had to pause that.
Turtleless, I need you. Go sexy mode. Turtleless, you know what to do. Goku like, shit, I'm fucked. The legendary Super Saiyan Turtleless is gonna fuck me up again. Oh, go to Frieza. You go amazing out here. But let the legendary Super Saiyan Turtleless fuck him up again. Now, Turtleless, 1,000 years of death. Insolent fool. The power of the true might fucks everybody up. Ooh, that shit took out 3 up bars. That shit won't hurt Turtleless. Turtleless is too sexy. Well, Goku, you lost this. You know you did. So, let me give you a final blast. Goodbye. Oh, you're not dead yet? Okay, let's try this. Goodbye. Kick! If you don't know about this punch, I'll perish. You know that shit gotta fucking hurt getting punched by some metal shit like that? That shit really gotta fucking hurt. I can only feel it. Okay. We eat them. Okay. Oh, I thought he was gonna get one more. I ain't gonna lie, I was gonna be happy. But you know what? He want Turtleless to finish the job. Team Turtleless. Along with freezing, so we good. But it's Team Turtleless, baby. Okay. Okay. Oh, he got a fucking dog. Let's go, Turtle. Ooh. Okay. Combo for days. We see you now with the power of cheese. The cosmos is mine. Turtles embarrassed that nigga. Dokkan like, you cheating ass bastard. So I need a Dokkan Awaken 3 characters. Dokkan Awaken. Okay, that's easy. Who would like to be Dokkan Awaken? Who would be the easiest character Dokkan Awaken right now? Frieza first. Frieza for sure. Anybody else? How the fuck do I not get the many Gregories? Well, I do use some motherfuckers like this candy. Sorry, I'm about to eat some shit. I can't wait to Janupa, bro. When Janupa get his Dokkan Awaken, I mean that Easy G Awaken, y'all got me so fucked up. All this ass whooping you been giving me. Let me go kind of look at real quick. Hopefully it's good with me. Okay, I didn't know this was I have no gun to save his life. I really want to touch the pink in this. Okay. Oh shit. does he take so much fucking damage? Dude? He's the type of villain. The best Gohan in the game. Boohan. No, a little higher than that probably. fuck? Yeah, probably I will be in 2000. Probably bad. Holy fucking shit. fool. You ain't no fool. You eat these bitches like they're Cheerios. I'm gonna lie, I want to turn to a John Rhodes about Mr. Sacrifices. Yeah, I think this defense stop. Damn, wait, I get one more for something. Nope, fuck that. Dude, let me get this more for something. We just gotta finish this one fucking mission. I'm going one more to something. After I do this one more to something, I'm gonna make it ready. I swear to God, you better kill him or you're gonna be banished for the rest of your career as a cooler. Yep, you made the right decision because you just got me an SSR. Thank you for making this critical choice. Because you about to be banned as a cooler for the rest of your career, nigga. Gonna ban your ass for fucking cooler. I don't want none of their ass. I just want the Janumba. Give me the fucking Janumba. We cool. I don't care about him. Well, who's this? I don't care about him. Who's this? What the hell? They got 4 SSRs in one summon. Okay, I guess I'll screenshot it.